So, Maurice, like, how did you get started in acting?
I didn't have anywhere else to go, basically, because I was, working at a supermarket. I started out modeling, very unsuccessful.
Oh my God, I remember that. Yeah, that's how I started.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least you're
Yeah,
taller. You're taller than I am.
I kind of work, but yeah, I had a little advantage. Yeah, because you got to be tall. I've worked with a guy who had things in his shoes.
I did.
You did?
But I didn't have lifts, but I just wore boots all the time. So I was 5'9". I used to lie and say I was 5'11".
Mm.
And when I first went into my agency, he's like, "How tall are you?" I said, 5'11". He said, "Is that with or without boots?" Oh, I said, "With boots, I'm 6'1".
Okay.
Can you imagine me 6'1", dude?
Dude, I don't think you've ever been 6'1" in your life, have you? No.
I don't even think I could jump that far. But that's how it was, and I was unsuccessful. Thank God I probably was unsuccessful, and then had a nervous breakdown. I got into acting, had a nervous breakdown, and after that I got back into acting, thank God, and got on My Children about 1.5 years later.
That was the launch for you, right?
Yeah.
What was the name of that character?
Nico.
You got a bird named Nico.
Yeah.
That's right.
I had a dog named Nico.
Right.
So that's basically that, and then one thing led to another, and GH came, and I was out of work for a couple of years and broke, and they called and said, "We got 2 roles we want you to play. Which one do you like?" I said, "What are they?" One's Damien, he's a mafia guy. The other was Sonny, he's a strip club owner. I said, "What's the name, Sonny?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "How long is that role?" They said 6 months. I said, "I'll take that." Because I thought I was just going to go in, kick butt, show everybody what I can do, and leave.
Right.
Here we are.
That's awesome.
26 years later. So, Réal.
Yeah.
Real.
How'd
you get started?
For me, it was, I never wanted to be an actor. I was always the jock, and they, Hollywood was coming into Vancouver at the time, and they needed a young black boy. What's funny was when my dad got ill, my mom actually gave me a box of, memorabilia stuff, and in it was my original contract, my original call sheet, my first paycheck, and it actually said black boy on the contract and on the call sheet. Yeah, this was in '81. It wasn't. But anyways, they needed a young black boy to play this line. There was literally 3 of us in North Vancouver, BC. They went around to the schools. They brought us in, auditioned. I read the lines. I got the part. The funny thing was, I'm sitting in the makeup chair. They're making me blacker because I wasn't black enough, right? And they bring in this guy, and they say, "Stand up." I stand next to him, and they go, "Yeah, that'll work." And an hour later, he comes back. He's got an afro on. He's black. He was going to be my stunt double, right? Long story short, after the thing, he said, he said, "Have you ever thought about doing stunts? You can make a lot of money." I heard him say, "Make a lot of money." And I said, "Yeah," and I got into that. I became the first African-American stuntman. I played every bad guy you could imagine because I could act, and I could fall through a window. I could take a punch. I could give a punch, And, and then eventually I got my big break was on a show, Night Heat. I played this psycho. I don't ever want anybody ever to see that show because it was terrible. I played it one note, and when I kill you, and then I moved to Hollywood, and like you, I was struggling, 19-year overnight success, and I got GH, and
after in 19
years, it was a long time. Are you serious? It was a long time of auditioning, acting, struggling. 25 cents was all I had. The whole deal. Poor and the thing, and then literally. In 1 week, I booked GH and I booked Soldier of Fortune.
Right.
I had to do that. Yeah.
But 19, because Réal's 83 years old.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Now, what would you say, Maurice, because people are watching this, one thing, you've been at this a long time, those people want to become an actor. What's one tip that you would say that you would give them with all your experience? What advice would you give them?
There's only one advice, and that's study, study, study.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, I just wanted to be the greatest actor in the world.
Yeah.
And how are you going to be the greatest actor unless you study? And that's all I did.
Yeah.
How about you? What advice would you give?
You know, for me, it's just to be, you know, I definitely study, and I totally, you just made me remember when I was on GH. I mean, there was this guy, dude. It was like, when you're doing scenes with Maurice, you better show up with your shit ready, because
Yeah.
you know what I mean. A, he's gonna eat you up, and B, you're disrespectful. You didn't like it, and I was blessed that you were my first person to work with, because I learned that right away. And the other thing I'd say, just, you know, just be relentless.
Yeah.
You can't quit, dude. It's not gonna happen.
No.
It's not gonna happen overnight, dude.
No.
And you know, these people who come here with this idea they want to be rich and famous and successful, you know, you're going to come up against people like you and me that are serious. It's not a joke, especially nowadays. They have, I was just meeting with an agent the other day. They told me 5 to 17,000 submissions for a part.
That's what I heard.
So, if, dude, you got to be serious. You got to be respectful.
Is that true, man?
Yeah.
For just like stupid parts.
Yeah. It's crazy. I want to change gears for a second, because
Yeah.
you mentioned you had a breakdown.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, and was that when you realized that you were challenged with bipolar?
Yeah, that's when well, I didn't know what it was when I was in the mental institution. It was just wild and sad and deep and intense. But when I got out of there, and that will be in the book, HarperCollins.
Yeah, HarperCollins, get that book, look for it. Yeah.
The more specific what happened, but then I was diagnosed with bipolar. No, manic depression. Because bipolar wasn't heard of. And I'm like, manic depression, but then he put me on lithium, saved my life. But me being me, I would go off the lithium, have a breakdown, get back on the lithium, feel good again, go off the lithium, and then have a breakdown. So I've had 3 nervous breakdowns. Now, Kanye West, on the other hand, it's great that he talks about it. His interview with David Letterman was fantastic. But I guess he doesn't take medication. He has, you know, maybe a doctor or something come to, which is, I guess you can do that. It scares me to not do it, because I don't want to have another breakdown.
No.
And I haven't had a breakdown in 25 years. So I've been, you know, it's been because I've been on lithium straight for 25 years. Well,
and you know what's crazy, Maurice? It's funny that you're saying that. I'm listening to you, because do you remember when we first met on GH? We hadn't even known each other about a week, and I remember you saying to me, you said you're bipolar, and I was like, yeah, I heard it. You know, my wife was always like, you need to get on medication. You've got some issues. And I was like, no, I don't. I can handle it. I do it. And you talk about 25 years. I think it's been at least, well, I've been challenged with it all my life now that I recognize it. And it's been 2 weeks today. I finally threw in the white towel. It got, like you said, it was so dark. And for me, it was, you know, I'm 6 months, 3 weeks sober. You know, things got ugly. I had 3 surgeries. I got addicted to painkillers. You know, that doesn't help when you're struggling with depression. Started drinking like crazy, and my friend says to me, "Are you an alcoholic?" I'm like, "No, I got it." You know, but what happened is when I got sober, and recently when I went into this deep depression, it got so dark, Maurice. I mean, I had thoughts that I could never, and I couldn't figure it out, because I've always kind of been able to fight it, I thought, or win.
How do you fight it?
Well, how I fought it was with drugs and alcohol. I was masking it. So for the first time, I didn't have that. And I said, you know what? I don't want to deal with this. I can't. I threw in the towel. It's been 2 weeks today. I've been on medication. And I said to you earlier, I wish I never waited that long. And, you know, yeah, there's some people out there that could, you know, God bless you if you can, but I'm just telling you, the way I feel right now, I can't. I texted my friend on the way out here today. I said, I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back, you know, because it was like, you know, and the thing when what we don't realize, what I didn't realize anyways, it's not just affecting me, dude. It was affecting my beautiful wife. It's affecting my, you know, my kids, or, you know, that, you know, like as I said to my wife the night before I was going to the doctor, and I said, I don't know if I want to go on medication. depression or something, and she said, well, I love you a lot, but she said, you know, it's very hard for me as your wife to see you do this up and down and do all this stuff and the kids. And I was like, and she looked at me, she said, you know, are you surprised to hear that? And I was like, yeah, I kind of am. I thought I did a pretty good job of handling it. And, you know, it's a serious thing, dude. And so you do, you know, you do a thing that I've always admired. You kind of become because when we come out and say we challenge with depression, bipolar, you label yourself. People just think of you a certain way now. You're not thought the same way anymore. And I'm realizing I've lost so many people in the last year, especially men, to suicide. Because as men, we can't talk to nobody, right? We got the ego, we got a pride. So you do a thing on Instagram, right?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, if I did drugs and drank, either one, I wouldn't be here. Yeah. Because it's hard enough, this illness, to have to, you know, live with it or whatever. But to have that on top of it, I could not have done it. Yeah. I know people do it. You did it. But I have
very successfully. A train wreck of damage.
But you're still here.
Yeah, exactly. Luckily.
Okay. Yeah. Right. And the suicides that I've been witnessing lately, rock stars.
Christopher St. John?
I mean, yeah. I don't know exactly what happened there, so I don't want to really, that's a tough one. But I'm talking about the rock stars that died one after another. People we hear about die with depression, they kill themselves. A lot of people kill themselves. That's why that gets inside of me. Like, I almost feel like there's something I could have done.
Yes.
Even though I don't know these people, if I just maybe met them somewhere and said, hey, you know.
Yeah.
So State of Mind came from kind of that, where I speak every Sunday on my Instagram story. And I just tried it out. I just started talking about mental illness. Well, you start getting a response. You're like, I have to do this now. And
don't you find so many, when you first did that, like all of a sudden these people came out, you were like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's like, I remember a story of this big football player, this big guy, Oregon State, I saw it. And they were interviewing him. He's maybe you know him, he has a nickname or something, they call him Mr. Smiley or something. And he's known for always smiling, always saying hi to everybody. I think I know what you're talking about, right? Yeah. He's a big guy. Yeah. And they asked him, why do you smile so much? Why do you do that? And he shared the story back when he was in high school of a kid, kind of an outcast, nobody paid attention to him much, whatever. He committed suicide at 7:30 at night, he said. He said they found a note that he left in the morning. And he said, if one person is nice to me, says hi to me, asks me how I'm doing, I won't take my life. Wow. So he went the whole day. And it's like, you see these, I know, you know, we have another friend, I'm not going to mention his name, I just connected with him the other day, I'll tell you off camera. When I came out and said that, you know, he reached out to me, and he's in a deep, dark place right now. Unfortunately, he's going through divorce, and it's really set him off. And I was like, dude, I'm here for you. Well, you know, what would you say to people out there that, you know, maybe haven't had the courage yet, they're still struggling, they're, you know, in that dark place? I like to say, stop the voices. What would you say to people that are in our world?
Well, the problem is that I say is you can't help what you can't see. So mental illness, I come in, see this scar here? Yeah. I came in to work with a scratch, which basically became a scar. And people, oh my goodness, I can't believe it, what happened? Are you all right? Go to the... But I come in with anxiety or depression where I can't even function. And everybody's like, he's tired. Yeah. So first and foremost, you have to, because we also, it's very difficult because we can't help somebody that doesn't want to get help. Yeah. But if you're going through anything, what I say is, you have to talk. Yeah. You have to admit. You have to look in the mirror and say, I need help. Yeah. I can't do this anymore.
Stop the voices.
Right. And because if you keep it in, those are the people that eventually.
Yeah. Well, I totally know what you mean, and you know, we'll wrap it up. But I call it like, because especially with men, would you not agree?
Yeah.
Because we have the egos, we have the pride, so we really don't want to admit we got problems. And when you're living in that world, just like you say, you're not letting anything out. You're just, those voices start getting in your head. The battles, it gets ugly and it gets dark. And the one thing I want to say to people watching this, because this happened to me recently, is you know, in my AA group, somebody came out in the thing and mentioned depression, brought up depression, and I said, oh, because they don't really talk about it in there. So I saw it as an opening to share, like, oh, because you feel comfortable in that group. So I came out and said, you know, I'm challenged with this, I struggle with it. And as they go around the room, and people, they're not supposed to crosstalk, but they do in my group, and all these people were like, suck it up, get over it, you know. And I was like, you know, and it irritated me, embarrassed me, but I was like, and I came back 2-3 days later and I said, you know what, I'm really mad that I shared my dark secret, but I said, here's the thing, depression, there's a difference between being depressed and sad and having a bad day. The depression that we have when it comes and you don't know who to fight, you don't know who to attack, you can't, it's a completely different thing, and they don't understand that. No. And I'm not mad at you, but I'm just letting you know, it's completely different. You know, so you know, guys, if you know, Maurice has got that thing on Instagram. You know, we're both, you know, I've come out now, we're advocates, you know, all this stuff. You know, go ahead, follow Maurice at Maurice Benard on all his social media, specifically his Instagram. You can follow me at Réal Andrews on my Instagram, my Facebook page. We appreciate you spending some time with us, and you know what, as I always say, I'll believe in you till you believe in yourself. Do you have a saying for them? I don't even know.
It's all about state of mind.
Yeah. All right, make the rest of the day the best of the day. God bless. Boom.